Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. It's Marie with Swipe in the City.
And you've got Michelle in the studio today.
And we are joined again by the lovely Kristin, here to give us some expertise regarding all things planning. Kristin, want to introduce yourself real quick for those who haven't heard your other episodes?
Yeah, hi ladies. Good to chat with you again. Thanks for having me. I'm Kristin Crooks, and I am the owner and lead planner at Besher Events.
And you know all the things when it comes to etiquette and planning. And I don't think I've ever met somebody so structured, and it makes me so happy.
Well, I'm glad it doesn't drive you nuts because I think it drives most people nuts.
Every once in a while, I roll my eyes, but I love you dearly. So,
and just for people who aren't familiar, Besher Events, do you specifically do weddings only, or do you do all sorts of events there?
All sorts of events, corporate parties that are not bride related, weddings.
Cool.
All the things. Yeah. How many weddings do you have this year?
I have 3 this year that I'm planning, and then I have 3 this year that I'm going to as a guest.
Oof.
Yeah, I was expecting a surge this year after 2020 and 2021. So not surprised that this is happening.
So that's like 6 total weddings in 12 months.
Yes, and they're all between June and October. So not quite 12 total months. They're just all wedged in there.
Is that like every other week?
Yeah, it'll be a lot. It'll be fun though. Hoping for all good weather for them. That's always my biggest concern going into an event, especially if there's an outdoor component, is it's just praying for good weather.
Are they all going to be in the Chicagoland area? For those who don't know, Kristin's in Chicago.
Woohoo! No, I have one in Colorado, one in Springfield, Illinois, and then the rest are around here.
Okay, you to Springfield. Colorado sounds cool. But at least you don't have to travel for all of them. Because if you had to travel, I mean, I don't know about you. I personally wouldn't commit to attending 6 weddings if I had to travel for all of them.
No, actually, one of my friends has like 7 or 8 this year, one of them being her own, and most of them are out of state. She has some on the East Coast, some in the Midwest. Like, it's insane, and I don't know how she does it.
Oh my gosh. And Michelle, you've got 3.
I have 3. Yeah.
Within like 2 months.
Yeah, it's all packed between like including the Bachelorette parties, it's all packed between like mid-July and the first week of October. And they're all of it is out of Austin. None of my Austin friends are getting married. It's everybody that's back home.
That's because Austin is like Neverland, and all you none of your Austin friends are there yet.
We're like, I'll get married when we're 40. Like, that's fine.
No worries. This is fine. Cool. Well, so what we want to chat with you about a little bit today is not really, we've already had an episode on like general wedding planning. So we want to talk about all those other parties surrounding the wedding, and really mainly focus in on the Bachelorette party. I feel like those are the most entertaining. And I guess
why am I not surprised that the 2 of you want to focus on the Bachelorette party?
I mean, I feel like bridal showers, and maybe you can give some clarification, because as we talked about earlier, like I thought there's like a bridal party as an event. but remind me again, Kristin, about a bridal party and what that means.
Michelle, I love you. You crack me up. So the bridal party is not an actual like gathering to celebrate an event. The bridal party is what you refer to your bridesmaids, groomsmen, or anybody that walks down the aisle at your wedding. So it would be parents of the bride, parents of the groom, groomsmen, bridesmaids, bride and groom. It's not an actual party.
Okay.
So you can take one party off your list.
Okay, perfect. I love that.
I'm not going to lie. Like when you were like listing it all out, I just like went with it thinking, oh, is there something else I need to like know about right now?
You're like, shit, is there somewhere I'm supposed to be right now?
Literally.
So then there's the no, hold on. The bridal shower and then
Yes.
a bachelorette typically, like, again, you're obviously involved in a lot of weddings. You've planned a lot. You've participated in a lot. Like, what would you say are the key differences between a bridal shower and bachelorette? It's breaking my brain.
So, so there's also technically a third. It's not as common. It used to be more common in, like our parents' generation, grandparents' generation, but there would be an engagement party. So after the couple got engaged, the family, typically of the groom, would host an engagement party. And it's just kind of a gathering for people to congratulate the bride and groom and hang out, kind of like a barbecue. It's very casual. It's nothing where you're renting a banquet hall or a restaurant, but just an opportunity for people to celebrate the engagement with you. And then typically like 3 months to 6 weeks out before the wedding, there's the bridal shower. And that is traditionally the bride, bridesmaids, family, and friends that are female that, it's never the bride or the bride doesn't throw the bridal shower. It's either the maid of honor, mother-in-law, an aunt, or a friend, and they'll throw a party for all the girls. They come, and in my personal opinion, I think showers of any kind are always so awkward, and they just make me cringe. It's just kind of awkward because it's a random assortment of people. Sometimes they're combined, like the bride side and the groom side, and you come and you sit for 3 hours, and the bride awkwardly has to open all the gifts that typically she already knows she's receiving, because your registry notifies you when somebody buys you a gift for your shower. So you have to sit there and act surprised, like, oh, look, I got a KitchenAid mixer. Yay. And then there's always those awkward games. Games are
those are cringy.
Awkward. There's some that aren't as bad, like if they do the gift bingo, where you just kind of mark if, you got kitchen towels, I have that on my bingo. That one's not as bad.
That's kind of
funny.
But
the one where you're like, that one's
I like that.
And then you get a prize. Yeah.
It makes gift opening a little bit more
interactive.
Yeah. Otherwise everybody's just sitting there drinking, and it's like, okay, when is this done?
Right. And it always takes forever.
There's never enough chairs. I'm just getting like PTSD, like sitting at a bridal party in like an awkward chair or like a stool and just watching someone cringe as they like open the gifts. And it's always like, I feel like traditionally too, there's like some component where people give, and it depends on probably like how conservative the family is or the friends, but it's like they'll give like lingerie and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel
like that's definitely not a bridal shower gift.
Oh, I've seen it at bridal showers.
Well, that's definitely
not
like
willing to.
Yeah, that's typically a bachelorette party type thing. That would be so terrible to have to sit there and open like a lingerie set in front of your grandma.
It's definitely happened in movies too.
Yeah, well, obviously Hollywood, they need, comedic relief. And then another thing during the gift opening process is it's tradition to make sure that your gift is wrapped in some sort of ribbon and a bow, because the maid of honor takes like a paper plate and ties all of the ribbons to it. And then that's like the fake bridal bouquet for the rehearsal. And also it's superstition that if you break one of the ribbons while you're opening the box, that's the number of kids that you're going to have. So if you break like 5 ribbons, you're going to have 5 kids.
I hate that.
So people always,
also, I hate saving I don't know. I hate everything about what you just said.
Also, like the way
I like the ribbon thing because it's fun to have something for the bride to, have to hold during the rehearsal.
After the rehearsal, what do you do with the plate? You just throw it away. It's garbage.
Yeah, you find the nearest trash can.
It's creating waste, and I don't know if you know, but yesterday was Earth Day, and we recycle. Yeah, that's really funny. But no, that's kind of like what I've experienced with bridal parties. So it's typically, and I feel like it's typically, like you said, the groom's like sister or mom or aunt or something that kind of throws it because they're typically less involved in the bachelorette party.
Right.
But yeah, it's really.
But it's really just for like the couple to get gifts. Traditionally, a bridal party was, you get married and then you buy a house. So the bridal party was setting you up for success in your new home with like, your plates and your utensils and your pots and pans. And I feel like that's less common now. I mean, it's still nice, but the point of that is to set the bride and the groom up now with, new things that they can own together versus, he brought the plates and I brought the silverware and that was mine and that was yours. It's a joining of things so we can say, this is our plate set. We picked it out together, and it makes it more homey for the bride and the groom to, combine their lives.
Interesting.
I mean, that definitely checks out. Yeah. Like I've lived with a partner before, and it was like we had like a weird mix of kitchen items. And then when we split, I got left with a weird mix of things. He took all the good Tupperware.
Right.
I'm still bitter.
Asshole.
But yeah, do we want to segue into like bachelorette parties?
Yeah, let's get into where things actually get dirty.
Here we go.
That being said, Kristin, etiquette queen, what do you like? What are your top tips that you would advise, like maid of honor for planning and just bachelorette etiquette in general?
Yeah, I think one really important thing is, if it's just the maid of honor or if it's an assortment of bridesmaids, it kind of depends on what works best for a specific bridal party. And maybe it's, a sibling, whoever's planning it, to be cognizant to make sure that you talk to the bride about what she is looking for out of her bachelorette party. It's not fair to just take the reins of something and plan an event that is specifically honoring the bride and then to have the bride show up and be really uncomfortable about what's going on. So always before making any sort of decision as the planner of the bachelorette party is to get the bride's input and see exactly what she wants to do. And remembering that, while you might want a bridal or a bachelorette party that has penis paraphernalia all over.
The penis talk is always a point of contention. Like either love it or hate it.
Right. Or like, strippers. I mean, there's just so many different things that it's really personalized to the bride and to the couple. And then also to remember to be respectful of the fiance.
Yeah.
Maybe the fiance is uncomfortable with a stripper or with, penis straws, whatever the case is, just really make sure to get the bride's input and then also to point out to the bride that she should ask her fiance if, there's any sort of issue or concern that they have before the planning process starts. And then I would say as a guest of a bachelorette party, I know it's so awkward when you are getting contacted by somebody that you might not know. Just remember that the person having to contact you feels twice as awkward as you do because they're probably collecting money and they're trying to get a hold of you. So just be really respectful, to be very open with communication, and as much as possible, try not to involve the bride because she's busy enough planning her wedding. So try to communicate with the point of contact as much as possible. If there's a big concern, obviously reach out to the bride, but if you can, keep communication and decisions and problems off of the bride's plate as much as possible.
That makes sense. I feel like I would have a huge struggle letting go of that control, though. I'm just going to leave that out there.
I feel like the only person you would let plan a bachelorette for you is Kristin.
100%.
There is you have to trust the person to relinquish the control. And I think, I'm a control freak 100%. I plan weddings. That shouldn't surprise anybody. I would have a hard time relinquishing the control unless it was somebody that I trusted to do exactly what I was telling them that I wanted, and then knew that my vision would come to life in a way that I foresaw in my head and there was no surprises the day of.
What advice would you give a bride if she's kind of, maybe she's got like a couple super close friends, and what advice would you give her to kind of like, I guess, delegate that?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that there's no rule that the maid of honor has to do it. So it's whatever you're comfortable with. And if there are a couple close friends that you want, involved in the planning so that you're not putting it on one person's shoulders, then make that known. And then, maybe set up a meeting with, maybe there's the bride plus 3 girls that she wants to plan it. Make sure you guys all sit down, you're on the same page. Make sure that the expectations are laid out properly so that everybody's on the same page. And then that way, the people who are planning it, maybe they don't know each other as well. It gives them an opportunity to kind of break the ice and put a face to a name.
That makes sense.
One other thing that I think is important, but people probably don't think about, is whoever the point of contact is, asking them how much info the bride does or doesn't know about the party. Because, yeah, that's like for one of the bachelorettes that I'm going to, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be talking to that, like, my friend, the bride, tomorrow. Like, what, like, does she know the location? Does she not? Like, does she know we might do this activity? Does she not? Like, I don't want to spoil any surprises. Because I feel like, especially with bachelorettes, like, they might know 90% of things and have like one little surprise, or it might be like, no, this whole thing is a surprise.
Like, they literally have no idea what they're walking into.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And you don't want to ruin the surprise for anybody. So I think that is really good, just to make sure that, and that's really on the planner, that you shouldn't have to be cognizant of that. If something is a surprise, the planner of the event should lay that out in black and white, in bold, in caps, saying, the bride doesn't know these 3 things that are happening, so please make sure not to discuss. So
good point.
While that is a good heads up by you, that really is more of a planner faux pas if they're not letting you know that ahead of time.
That's, but also, I mean, that's like, I feel like that's how all of our brains work. But for people who are planning, who have never like planned a big event before, or maybe, not to say that are more spacey, but just like haven't, like, don't think through every like thing. If you're unsure, you can ask. But another thing with etiquette that I think is important, and this is also like me to me, like, remembering that it's not your party. Like, it is for the bride if you're attending, and from the perspective of like, oh, well, I don't want to do that or this or something that's like a group activity. Obviously, some like weekend getaway bachelorette parties, a lot of times they'll be like, you can do this or you can opt out. You can do this or that. Like, some of us are doing this depending on the group size, but like, just kind of remembering it's not about you, and maybe you do something that you are like not uncomfortable with, in a sense of like male, like if you're not comfortable with like male strippers, obviously not that, but like maybe you don't normally go like indoor rock climbing, but the bride like loves it, so she has the group do that or something like that. Like, kind of being open-minded is more so, and then again remembering like it's not about you at the party.
Yeah, no, I think that is such a good point, and that is really something people need to keep in mind, is don't be a nuisance to people. It's hard enough to plan an event as it is, but for you to sit there, like you said, and be like, well, I don't want to rock climb. Just shut your mouth, show up. You don't have to climb the wall, be supportive, do something else. Like, go get the bride a drink while she climbs the rock wall. Figure out some ways to involve yourself where you're not actually, climbing your ass 100 feet in the air if you're scared of heights, and I understand that. But participate, be fun, and don't sit there and be like, oh my God, I hate rock climbing. This is the worst day, because you're going to ruin the bride's day. Another thing about being cognizant is that you don't want to be the girl that shows up to a bachelorette party and gets wasted, and then you're puking and the bride is taking care of you.
Yeah.
So, while the stigma is that you're just going to go get trashed at a bachelorette party, I think that's kind of, for like young 20-somethings that haven't been drinking that long. But especially as you get older, and even if you are younger, don't be a burden. Don't ruin somebody's bachelorette party because you had too much alcohol and now you're puking all night, or you puke in someone's car. So be respectful.
I think kind of along those lines too is if you're attending a bachelorette party and there's someone else attending that maybe you've had a falling out with or you aren't friends with or don't get along with, like, I think potentially even having a conversation, especially, and I feel like bachelorette parties have shifted, right? It used to be you do like a night out on the town, and now I feel like it's all like weekends, like a full weekend event. But I think even potentially having like an adult conversation with the person ahead of time and saying, hey, like, we're not best friends, no biggie, but let's both like be respectful of each other. Let's play nice. Like, let's make sure that our bullshit doesn't affect Marie's weekend.
Yeah.
Because I think what can happen is if you don't have that, then one person can be kind of like passive aggressive or have an attitude, and then that energy just like shifts. It's like
you don't want to address it there.
And you don't want to, oh fuck, no. Like,
oh, do you have a story?
No, I just foresight. Like, I just like can see things, but no, I just feel like it does happen a lot. But yeah, I feel like what can happen a lot of times, especially for people who don't go out as much or don't drink as much, is they'll get in the mood, they'll take some shots, and then they'll be like, okay, now I feel like I've got, the oomph to address this. And it's like, you just like can't, you have to put that shit aside.
We're all adults.
We are all adults, but some people are very like, some people really hold on to shit and don't just have those like conversations. And so, yeah, I think just remembering again, someone else's party is not the time.
Yeah, totally.
No, especially this kind of a party when this is theoretically a once in a lifetime party. You don't do this again. It's not a birthday party. This is your hopefully only bachelorette party, bridal shower. So yeah, don't bring your problems into the day. If you're having a bad day, just put a smile on your face and deal with it. And I think that goes along the lines with prior proper expectations.
Yeah.
So that's another situation where the bride, if she knows about that, might send, a text message to her and the two girls involved and say, hey, I foresee this being a problem. Please work this out whatever way you need to do that. I don't want it to be a problem the day of. But just calling out any issues that could potentially be a problem. And another thing with setting prior proper expectations is it's typically expected that if you are a bridesmaid that you attend both the bridal shower and the bachelorette party.
Yeah.
So knowing that when you accept that is part of the responsibility of a bridesmaid is important to keep top of mind in terms of budgeting and planning for the expense of being a bridesmaid.
Yeah. What advice would you give brides to like kind of help set those expectations on the front end when they're asking? Because I think that's something we hear. I mean, obviously not just me, but like anybody, like a lot of drama surrounding the wedding is related to like bachelorettes dropping out.
Right. And that's 100% true. Bridesmaids drop out or they get fired because the expectation wasn't put there up front. And it's awkward because it involves money. And anytime money is involved, it's just an awkward position to be in. Yes. I think that as a bride, it's fair to expect your bridesmaids to be there if you're doing something local. However, I don't think that if you're planning a trip to Maui or New Orleans or wherever you're going, that it's fair to expect your entire bridal party to drop thousands of dollars for you to go on vacation for your bachelorette party. I think that's become more common, but I also think that that's really strenuous to be a bridesmaid when you're asked to maybe you're an out-of-town bridesmaid, so to travel in town for the wedding and then to travel to Hawaii for the bachelorette party, which is probably going to be more expensive than the actual whole entire wedding portion. So just as a bride, being gracious if you decide to do like an out-of-town trip if somebody can't make it, where they're having to pay for a hotel for 3 nights and a flight and dinners out every night, lunch out every day, breakfast. It's a lot to ask of somebody. And so keeping that in mind. And then also I would say to lay out the expectation and decide what you want to do before you ask your bridesmaids. So saying, these are my expectations. This is what we're doing. This is the date. it's going to be the weekend of May 1st. It's going to be in this city. It's going to cost this much. This is what the activities, like the more information you can lay out ahead of time and give the bridesmaid before they accept your proposal to be in the wedding, is to give them all the details and say, this is what I estimate this costing. This is what I estimate this costing. This is the weekend you need to, take work off or fly here. So just really being upfront about what that expectation is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think just in general, setting any kind of expectations coming from a salesperson, right?
Yes,
like all I care about is setting the right expectation. What other advice would you give for those who like would want to have, because it is really common to have like a destination bachelorette party. What other like additional would you say that they probably have that thought about up front, like when they first ask their bridesmaids, or what advice would you give there?
Yeah, that 100% should be laid out. Like, this is where I want to go. This is how long I want to go for. But as a bride, having the expectation that if you're going to be going somewhere destination wise, is that you should be paying for your own flight. You should be chipping in for some of the expenses, because it's different to have your friends and bridal party chip in to pay for like your night out and your dinner and whatever else if it's one day. But to ask people to cover their flight and then split the cost of your flight, your hotel, all of your meals out, your transportation, that is an unrealistic expectation, in my opinion. So if you, want to do something out of town, then you should be chipping in financially.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. And that's like one of the bachelorette parties I'm going to is actually a joint bachelorette party. But it's destination. I mean, Denver, but it's still like destination. But yeah, there's not an expectation that everyone is paying for like their own flight, their own room and board, and the brides as well. So it's like they're in line with what you're saying of not expecting that, because that would like,
that's a lot,
and stuff and everything adds up fast too. Mm-hmm. So but again, I think that comes back to the expectation setting too. On that note, we wanted to talk a little bit about like locations for destinations. I feel like Vegas, Austin, Nashville are like the top, kind of like the top three. Any thoughts on like those kinds of locations or other ones that you've heard of people doing that are actually like a little more unique or interesting?
Living in the Chicago area, I know a lot of people will go to Lake Geneva for a weekend and they'll rent an Airbnb and just kind of hang out, like small town, lake town. So it's not as intense. And then personally, if, money wasn't an object, if I was getting married, I would probably do New Orleans if I did a destination. It's my favorite city, so I'm a little biased. There's nothing quite like a good beignet at Cafe Du Monde.
I still haven't been.
Me either.
My mom.
That's a sin.
We need to go.
My mom is going to go.
You need to go.
But I can't.
It's amazing.
My shellfish allergy makes it a little bit sad.
Oh, that's a good point.
I
feel like the whole city would make you sick.
Yeah. Like the air could be nauseous.
There's no shellfish in a beignet, Marie.
Yeah, I know that. Beignets are great, but
like the city itself.
That's all you need.
Yeah, the city itself and like general like food options.
But yeah, I'd say New Orleans is a good one. It depends on what you're looking for. A lot of people do Florida if you want like the beach vibe. So not, quite the, going out on the town if you're more of a person that's introverted and not interested in, all the shenanigans that go along with the traditional bachelorette party. Yeah, you could do some sort of like beach weekend. One of my brides is doing a concert locally and then going out to dinner.
Okay.
So it should be tailored to the bride's taste and what she likes and is interested in and looking to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I thought Denver was an interesting, like kind of unique one, but I love Colorado, so I think that'll be a lot of fun, and like you can be crazy or you can be chill.
Yeah,
in a place like Denver.
It's a good balance. And like to your point too, like in Oregon, Bend and Hood River are really good, more like chill outdoorsy options. And like kind of like you said too, like if you're planning for someone, keep in mind their style and interests and what they want to do. Like we're not taking Marie on a bachelorette to Las Vegas. Even I wouldn't want to do a bachelorette party in Las Vegas.
It's
would not.
Really funny that you like Andrew's trying to get me to go on a trip to Las Vegas like this summer.
Why? Well,
I don't know.
We'll unpack that later.
We were watching Ben Higgins. Oh God, we're watching Ben Higgins' season of The Bachelor, and they were in Vegas, and we both said that sounded like fun. And I've only been there for work or with my family, so I digress. But yeah, no, would not want a bachelorette party there. Thank you for knowing that about me.
I think another thing too, in regards of keeping the bride in mind, is dress your part. So if you have a bride that's really laid back and wouldn't go out somewhere wearing 6-inch heels and a tight little dress, then don't show up dressed in that manner. But if you have a bride that's fashion forward and really loves to wear heels, don't show up in sneakers.
Yeah. On the note of like attire, can you talk a little bit about obviously bachelorettes always have like the fun shirts and like what honestly, like what are some like good sources and different places that they can go to find like stuff that may be a little unique? I feel like I see the same shit over and over again when I'm out in Austin.
Yeah. I mean, I like Etsy. I just think it's economical, and that's probably why you see the same types of things over and over again. People like to do that's the other thing. People like to do what's trendy. So I think that's why you see things recycled. So it depends. Like sometimes people will do a theme, and you could do like a taco theme. So it's last fiesta. I don't know. They have weird ones like that. Yeah. And then people have ones that say like last fling before the ring, or there's Harry Potter where it's like from Muggle to Mrs. There's just different options if you want to do a theme, or you could just do a plain shirt that says bridesmaid or bride squad, bride.
Yeah.
So people will do that. And then typically for the bride, it's sparkly. So something sparkly, rhinestones, sequins for the bride to wear going out. Sometimes there'll be a dress code, like black and white, or wear a romper, or, there's a color coordination. Yeah, going something along those lines. So people will do that. Typically the bride will wear a white dress to the shower, to the bachelorette party, but that's really up to preference. Maybe you hate white and you don't want to wear white and you want to wear black. Like that would be Marie. I want to wear a black wedding dress.
Yeah, right. She's like, actually, I'm in black and you're all wearing white.
I mean, honestly.
Right. She'd be like, no, I'm black and you're going to wear green because that's like Slytherin's color. And I'm a Slytherin.
Obviously.
Fair. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And a good transition into like dressing the part, like, so activities. I think everyone knows like typically drinking or bars is like part of it. Typically a nice dinner, I think, is part of it. And then I feel like activities can really range depending on, again, the bride and the group too.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned rock climbing, which
right.
Or you did, Michelle, I think. One of you did.
Yeah,
Michelle did.
I mean, I wouldn't do rock climbing.
No, I wouldn't either.
I did that. Actually, I did indoor bouldering for a birthday party once, and it was really fun. Yeah.
It's unique. I could get behind that. But anyways, Kristin.
Yeah, sorry. Back to our expert.
I think activities are a great way for people who don't know each other well to interact and get to know one another while they have something to do, where you're not just sitting there like at a bridal shower awkwardly having a side conversation. And then there's that awkward silence where you both nod and smile and kind to like turn away because there's nothing else to talk about.
Look
So
at your
yeah, activities
phone.
are great. I definitely think activities should be part of it. It just gives you something else to do. And I also think just doing like dinner and dancing, that's such a short time for this once in a lifetime experience that you're having. So if you do like an activity midday right after lunch, it just extends your celebration a little longer, especially if you're not doing an out of town weekend affair.
Yeah.
So I had a friend that did kayaking on the Chicago River one time. That was really
That would be
cute.
fun.
One of my brides was doing a concert. You could do something like top golf, bowling, laser tag, axe throwing, anything that's like a unique experience. I'm always, you try something once kind of person and round your wheels. So yeah, just anything unique that you're interested in doing. If you like being outside and don't want to do something that's drinking focused, go to a water park, go to a beach, go hiking if you live in the mountains. If you're in New Orleans, you could do like a ghost tour that's very unique to the area that you're in. So I think it depends where you're having it, but I highly recommend doing it, some sort of activity.
Yeah, I think to your point too of just like when there's this like kind of random mix because they all know the bride but don't necessarily know each other. I think that's a really good way to break the ice.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good to like break up the drinking too.
Mhm.
Because if you're just like,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to go to Austin for the weekend, or we're going to go to Nashville for the weekend, we're going to do brunch and then be out and about, and you don't have like,
We're gonna drink for 12 hours straight,
like
and then
that's
we're gonna pass out.
like that's the recipe for
Right.
disaster.
Yeah.
Along those lines too, how structured do you feel like a weekend should be? Like, do you think that it should be, hey, here are the key things and things are kind of loose in between? Do you think it should be planned down to like each meal is planned ahead of time? What are your thoughts on like how scheduled the weekend should be?
It's funny that you bring up meals because the first thing I instantly thought about is put 15 girls in a room and ask them what they want for dinner, and you're going to sit there for an hour and a half trying to decide.
Kill me now.
I don't know
I'm
what I
out.
want. I don't know what I want. What do you want? What do you feel like?
Oh,
Did
we
lose
lose
you?
you? Kristen?
Expectations.
Oh,
You're
So
back.
if
We
you
lost you for a second.
are all there,
We
you hear me?
we lost you for a second. Yeah, go back to putting girls in a room.
Yeah. So yeah, if you put 15 girls in a room and you sit there and you're like, okay, we're going to decide now what we want to do for dinner. You're going to sit there for 2 hours because nobody's going to be able to make a decision. Oh, I
Yeah.
think I have a taste for this. So I don't know what I want. I want a cookie. Well, that's not dinner.
That's me.
I'm
Actually, I'll
Right.
take this chocolate chip cookie. I'm good.
also like, oh, I'm on
Right.
keto. It's like, well, fuck, Bethany.
Yeah,
Right.
one person's keto, one person's gluten-free, one person's vegan.
Right. So I think in terms of, keeping the weekend fun, and again, with the setting prior expectations, you don't want to get into a situation where the bride's like, I want to go to Ruth Chris for dinner. And everyone's like, whoa, I was only planning to spend $25 on my meal. So I definitely think pre-planning. And then also when you have a bigger party and it's usually a Saturday night or a Friday night, you can't just walk into a restaurant at 7:00 without a reservation and say, seat my party of 15.
Yeah.
So I 100% am a fan of structuring things and, putting out an itinerary. Now you don't have to say like, if it was me, I would do this, but you don't have to say, okay, at 5:00, we're all going to shower. We're going to be done at 6. We're going to take photos from 6 to 6:30. That's how I run my shit. And that's me because I'm just anal retentive and I have to, know what's going on. Cause I also hate being the person that's like, okay, we're going to eat at 7. So I start getting ready at 5 and then everyone else lazes up at 6:30 and now we're not ready to go at 7. And I'm sitting there with my hair and makeup done like, fuck you bitches.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think having like a general timeline of, okay, we're going to eat between 7 and 9 a.m. for breakfast. We're going to be out of the hotel at 11. We're going to do this activity from 11 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Just structuring it and then specifically saying we're going to wherever you want to go for dinner and listing the restaurant. That way people can look at the menu ahead of time, make sure there's something they can eat, budget for how much it's going to cost them.
Yeah. I love too how much you talk about taking budget and expectations into consideration because it's so important. And I think especially like we're at an interesting age where everyone, like for the most part, everyone has good jobs, everyone does well, but like everybody's at kind of a different stage financially where some people are like saving for a house or some people are transitioning in their careers and some people are like making really great money. And so understanding that there's differences and like letting people know ahead of time so there isn't an awkward moment where someone feels like left out because they're like, oh, I like genuinely like can't afford to spend $150 or $175 on that splurge on that meal. My splurge was this trip. So I love that you bring in budget and expectations because nobody like wants to talk about that shit, but it's so important. And it's important too for someone to know like, hey, maybe the expectations of the trip, like maybe it's not a trip that they can make. And that sucks. Right. That's like a decision they kind of have to make and deal with.
Well, and it's not saying like, hey, can you afford this? No. It's just like, hey, this is like an estimate of the cost. And, you know, it's up to you whether or not you like want to spend. Like, I think like the desire, like the value that you place on it, I guess, right? Like, is that something that like you can justify the expense, or do you want to put that like couple $1,000s towards your house, saving for your house or whatever it is? Which, by the way, congratulations again on yours.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels weird to not be wedged in my tiny little apartment.
Yeah, and then I think again, budget too comes down or is involved with like accommodations. Was like our like last bullet point here.
Yeah.
I was listening to an episode of so our favorite comedian Jared Freed has a series called Luxury Lounge, which I feel like you would appreciate. Yes. I don't know how many podcasts you listen to, but basically people write in about their kind of like luxury complaints. And every week at least there's one about bachelor or bachelorette parties. And one was so funny because I don't know, maybe it was Jordan, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But the one was saying, she's like, it's a bachelorette party. It's destination.
Oh,
they sent the
that was another Betch's co-founder, Aileen.
Oh, Aileen, yeah. She's like, they sent the kind of like, hey, here's the breakdown, here's the plan, and it was shared rooms in like an Airbnb, and not just like shared rooms, but like shared beds.
Yeah.
And this is a group of women in like their like early 30s.
Yeah, early to mid 30s. Like several of them have kids. And like they're expected to sleep like 23-year-olds.
I mean, I think that's a good way to save money because really, would you rather pay $30 to stay in a hotel room for a night or pay for your own at $175 a pop? So I think you need to be cognizant when making room assignments and make people aware that that is happening, and then maybe not put, you know, a 33-year-old mom with a 23-year-old recent college grad because they don't vibe, but also be cognizant of like, who knows who? Are they comfortable enough to share a room? Are they not? If somebody doesn't know somebody as well, they're acquaintances, and make sure they have their own bed and aren't expected to share a bed. Right. It really just depends. And again, like personally, I don't care if I was 40. I would rather pay $35 to share a hotel room with people that I am acquainted with than having to pay $150 for one night in a hotel by myself.
Yeah. Well, the hotel is nice because you're allowed that flexibility. This was just, it was funny because it was like an Airbnb home. So it was like they had rented the whole house. And I think there was like one person having to sleep, or there were a couple people sleeping on like a couch. And like from what it sounded like, the house itself wasn't chosen for the amount of people attending.
Yeah, it wasn't like a big enough. And I think it was like there was only like one bathroom, 2 bathrooms or something for like 12 people or something. So it was like, and it was just kind of, it wasn't like, hey, are we all in for this? It was like, hey, this is what we're doing.
This is where we're going.
But also, you know, also to what we've kind of discussed, like part of it is like someone does have to make those decisions, and you can be in or out. Right. And she in that case was like, I'm just not going to go.
Yeah.
Which was the right decision for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think along those lines, keep in mind, somebody is planning this. It is stressful to plan an event, especially when you don't know the people that you're planning it for.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my biggest pet peeves, like this makes me just want to take an axe and beat down a wall. I just get so rageful about this. When you get an invitation to something and you sit on it literally until the week that the RSVP is due, that makes me want to bitch slap somebody.
Yeah.
When you get an invitation, be courteous, be an adult, look immediately at your calendar.
Yeah.
I'm free or I'm not. I want to go or I don't. I want chicken, steak, vegan, vegetarian. Put your name on the damn of the back card, put it in your prepaid envelope, and walk your happy ass to the mailbox. It is so freaking rude. I just can't handle it because the people that sit on it are generally the people that know they're not going to go.
Yeah.
And having to collect people's RSVPs and they're sitting on it. And especially if you're the maid of honor and you don't know these people, now you're in the awkward position where you have to keep nagging them to RSVP or nagging them to pay you for something.
Yeah.
And then the bride has to get involved. Just this whole thing. And I just don't understand why people can't be adults and be like, okay, I'm going or I'm not. Yes. Here's my RSVP. Here's my payment. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And if it genuinely is something where you're like, I'm waiting to see if I'm having surgery April 1st or May 1st, and your event is May 15th, then you text the host and say, dear Mr. or Mrs. Host, I am waiting to see when my surgery is scheduled for. I want to be there as soon as I know you will know. But really, don't make the person sit there and be like, okay, they're ghosting me. Now I have to message them again. Like, people, really?
I feel like, too.
Biggest pet peeve as a planner.
Well, yeah. And I think people, like, I mean, everybody's busy. Like, I think most people know their calendars, too. So,
yeah,
like,
exactly.
what's the excuse?
Yeah. No,
people are just lazy and rude.
Yes.
I was going to say, I think the other thing that people have to keep in mind is, like, if 30 people are invited to something and they're expecting 20 people to come, they're making arrangements for 20, but they're still waiting on confirmation. Well, if only 10 people come, that drastically changes, like, all of the arrangements.
Yeah.
And so,
especially like group activities, like if you're trying to plan like a party barge,
right?
Like,
well, it changes the price per person,
right?
It changes the price per person.
That's huge.
That's just like with a wedding. When I had a bride that invited 300 guests, figured they'd have like 265. Well, there's now an event minimum for that before you know how many people are coming. So you sign the contract for that. So they signed the contract. They only ended up having 219 guests, and they were short $8,000 of their minimum. So now they have to figure out ways to spend that $8,000 because they don't get it back.
Oh,
so that's the same thing with any event. Like if somebody's having a bridal shower and they're hosting it at a restaurant, well, the head count is due ahead of time. You don't get to just decide the day of that you're coming or you're not. So let's say you invite 30, 25 people say yes, and then only 20 show up. Well, the host is now paying for 5 ghost guests for nothing. So she's literally paying for 5 people who said they were coming that aren't coming. So if you're a person that does that, in my opinion, I wish you could make people sign like an event contract. Okay, you said you're coming. The cost is this. If you show up, fine, like it's fine. But if you cancel last minute after telling me you were going to be there, you owe me the cost of everything that I paid for you to be at this event.
That's your RSVP. That's the contract, right?
Right, exactly. I wish it was like legally binding.
Every wedding that you plan, that's in the fine print on the RSVP.
Right. Right. Know what you're signing.
Yes. Oh my God. Well, honestly, and that's I think like a solid place to wrap up. Get your fucking RSVPs in, guys. Look at your damn calendar. Any other final like tips or advice for anybody planning these events?
Learn meditation and yoga because it's a stressful process. Dealing with people is always stressful. But then really just final point is keep in mind that a bridal shower and a bachelorette party, they are 150% about the bride. So show up with a smile on your face, even if you had a really bad day the day before. Just be present, be happy, take pictures, smile, dress your part, celebrate your part, and then just realize that karma's a bitch. So if you're rude to a bride, someday you might be getting married.
I love that. What a way to end. Well, thank you so much. Awesome as always.
Of course.
I love your insights, and I just I don't know. It's always so good when we record with you. So
I know. Thank you so much again, Kristin.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm always honored to be on. You guys are so much fun.
Always. No one's quite as direct and straight to the point as you.
Yeah, that's
with humor.
I've heard that one before.
with added color too. Awesome. Well, you can find us at Swipe and the City across all platforms. And cheers till next time.
Till next time. Thanks, y'all.